brought to you by the Field of 68 Media Network. Make sure you rate, review, and hit the subscribe button on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from. Now I have a truly special guest with me, someone that I respect, I love so much, I admire, I appreciate, and someone that I can truly call a friend. Jayhawk Nation, my coach and your head coach, Bill Self. Coach, thanks again for coming on.
Hey, how you doing? You know, I've never really thought about this, Jeff. You know, you had to go to KU with Jeff Hawk. I mean, I had never thought of that's Jayhawk right there. So I guess I should have probably figured that out a long time ago. I just thought they called you Jayhawk because you just wanted to go to KU so bad. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. You know, got basketball season here starting up for me here in a little bit for high school. We start first practice Monday, so getting that geared out, and obviously with the start of this new podcast, and you know, so a lot of things have been moving fast, man.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if people know, but Jeff just got the job this past summer at Pembroke, and that's I mean, you had good players there in the past, but I guess the most notorious players have been there with the Rush brothers.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess now Jerron was Jerron there as well.
Yeah, so Jerron and Kareem, you know, they both
and then Brandon I think left going into a senior year, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, you probably had about 8 years of Rush family playing ball there at Pembroke. So pretty good basketball tradition and heritage.
For sure. You know, to be honest, it reminds me about the tradition and the heritage, just like KU. So I'm blessed to be in that position. But Coach, we'll get ripping and rolling into this, man. So you're a grandpa now, man. So how does life change with you? Does it feel like you feel like you want to hang it up, or you feel like you got extra 10 more miles to run into you?
Well, there's not, you know, most 40-year-olds aren't grandparents yet. So, you know, it's unbelievable. I got the job here at KU when I was 40. Yeah. And so we're going on year 18 now. So I guess most 57-year-olds probably should have grandkids by now if they have children. So, yeah, it's great. It's great. Lauren and her husband Hayden gave us Ella, I guess, a couple of 3 years ago, and then Phoebe was just born this past year. So we got two healthy little girls, and so that is fun. That doesn't make me want to hang it up. It doesn't make me want to go longer. But what it does make me want to do is to see them as much as possible. That's for sure.
For sure. And I remember when I first had Mav, my firstborn, I just felt like my parents, man, right away, they put me in a back seat, and it was just all about the grandkids. So do you do some of that same things with Tyler and Lauren?
Well, Tyler, I think, would claim he's been in the back seat his entire life. And I think Lauren would say that Tyler was probably our favorite, but I think the girls usually went out on that deal. But
yeah, for sure.
But I bet Lauren feels that a little bit. You know, we always love going down and seeing her before she had the kids, but now we don't go see Lauren; we go see the kids. So, and if she's around, that's fantastic. but I think our most fun times is when they're not around, so we can have them all to ourselves.
All right, and give them that good spoiled love for sure. Well, Coach, you know, how was obviously with COVID going on, the protocols, and have to make adjustments on the fly. How has that impacted you guys' team chemistry? You know, kind of how was boot camp? And if you could give a favorite moment of your boot camp experiences over the last years, that'd be great.
Well, you know, COVID has messed with everybody. I mean, and so I'm sure with you, it's messed with them, with people that have work in any school district, with any small business owner, in anybody in the entertainment or hospitality business. I mean, everybody's been affected in some form or fashion in whatever they do, and it certainly affected us. But one thing that I've learned, and I've tried to do, Hawk, and you know, having been around me, you know, for the 3 years you were when you played, sometimes I don't roll with things as easily as what I should. I've decided this year, hey, nothing's going to get me. I mean, I'm going to expect the unexpected. I'm not going to. Our players will not sense the frustration that I will feel from this, because it's going to be frustrating. We're going to get ready to play a game and have the game postponed or canceled. We're going to be traveling this way and come to find out that certain guys can't go. We're going to have a guy test positive and then having to quarantine 14 of the guys for 2 weeks, and so you come back, you're not going to be ready to play a game for another 2 weeks. Yeah. These things are going to happen. We hope they don't, and we got all the precautions in place to try to make them not happen. But even though we can kind of put ourselves in a semi bubble, and we have an advantage over many, I think, because of where we live, because we're kind of in a bubble over there in McCarthy Hall anyway. It's not realistic to think that people won't experience life. Whether it's sitting in a classroom, what about if you go home for Christmas and you're just having turkey dinner with your family? There's some things you're just not going to be able to avoid if things happen, but you can't take it personal, and certainly you just got to roll with it. But it's going to be a unique year. It could be a year where the best team wins a national championship. It could definitely be a year where the luckiest team does, where the most fortunate team does, where the team who knows? But they all add up and count the same, as you've seen with the World Series and with the NBA playoffs. But it is just going to be a different deal.
Yeah, it is. And so, Coach, man, I think anybody who's a Jayhawk fan, especially a fan of Jayhawk basketball, they know you use this term soft. All right, so I want to know. Boot camp's only a week now, man. So what do you have to say?
That's not true. That's not really true. This year it was like 7 or 8 days, but it wasn't like it was.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll take those. I'll take that 7 or 8 days, Coach. Okay. So this one, I want to know, what do you have to say to former players who feel like, man, is Coach getting a little soft, man?
No. Well, I actually think you have every right to think that, because I think I have. I think we all do as we get a little bit older. But back when we started this at Oral Roberts in '93, it was hard. It was hard, and I was relentless and everything else. And then we get to Tulsa and Illinois, and all those teams before you would say, anything goes for 2 weeks. So, we'll practice at 6 or do boot camp at 6. And then we could do individuals, at 3. And then you got to lift. And then we do a mandatory study hall for 3 hours that day. And then to be a jerk, we start at 5 o'clock the next morning because, we let them sleep in until 5:30 the day before, and now it's like, okay, when's everybody's first class? Okay, let's go an hour or an hour and a half before then. So if first class was at 8:30, we may go at 7. And so I have gotten soft. This year was a little different, though, because we didn't even know if we were going to have a season. We didn't know when we were going to start practicing. And so for me, just to try to wear them out in September, not knowing when we were actually going to start, I thought that would be a bad move. So it was still hard. But it wasn't like it has been in years past. And people can say, well, how hard could it be or whatever? It's not that long, but it's 45 minutes of something that you're really proud of yourself and you're proud of your teammates when you get through it. But everybody that's been through it wonders if they can get through it. Yeah. But it's amazing. 100% completion rate. Everybody does it, and it's a great way to grow together.
Yeah, it is. So, Coach, one of the things that even this summer that I was very impressed with and grateful how you and the program handled social justice issues recently. What's it been like being the leader for young Black men during this time?
It's actually been good. It's actually been very educational. The thing that I always thought, Hawk, and I realize now more than ever, is, how I used to say the best players are the ones that know they don't know when they first get to school. The ones that don't know and think they do, they're going to struggle with me big time. And I kind of feel like maybe I thought I knew more than I did and didn't throughout this stuff. I was very, very giddy, excited, enthused about trying to find out as much stuff as I could, probably in that first initial 3 to 4 months when everything, you know, I mean, there were things that were happening prior to George Floyd's death, as we all know, but you know, just became so apparent. And then you have COVID going on, so you're not in the office as much, and you have more free time, and the reading, the watching documentaries, and our players are gone. The calls with them. I mean, just things like you know, Sean Alexander, who I know you probably had a class with here on campus with African American Studies. You know, getting him on Zoom calls and having him really spell out from an educational standpoint, misperceptions of Black Lives Matter, all the different things, what a socialist society some people say looks like compared to what others people say it looks like. There's a lot of things out there. And I don't really think that you could probably try to get your players to be open to learning unless you were open to learning. And so that's one thing I've done. And then we've tried to empower our guys. And, you know, we've done a lot of stuff, but we haven't done as much as we should be doing. And I hate to make excuses because of COVID. We can't take the platform on the road. You can't take it into schools. You can't take it into the community like you can because obviously there's limitations due to COVID. But, hey, my guys have been open-minded. My guys definitely have opinions, but they listen to the opinions of others. You know, we've had Brown versus Board, Topeka, Kansas, come in and do a seminar on how segregation was basically stopped in Kansas, and how it went to the United States Supreme Court, how it helped spearhead change all across America. You watch the documentary 13th. It just you know, painfully puts in perspective things that you don't really know that was going on as a white male growing up in a predominantly white community, that you just think you just take things for granted. And we definitely have some systemic issues going on out there. There's no question. And of course, we're all hopeful through this and hopefully through players leading, through me leading from behind, or maybe even leading from beside them, that we can make somewhat of a small difference in our community, which translates to generations down the road that it can be a significant difference. So I'm excited about the possibilities. It's certainly been a different time. And the other thing that my guys have been so good at, Hawk, and you'd be proud of them, is my guys want to know about me. My guys want to know what the police thinks whenever they make a routine stop at 1:30 a.m. on a Friday night. That appears to be routine or a traffic light. They want to know what's going on in the police heads as they approach a vehicle, because, you know, those are the questions that we're asking when we talk to the police. I mean, there's been a lot of things. They want to know how to start a hard conversation. We've gone through a seminar with how to start hard conversations. So there's so many things that I think that our guys are more educated to and have the knowledge to maybe start some conversations with people as this thing continues to move forward. So I'm very proud of them. I think they've done great. We can always do better. There's no question. I know I can always do better, but it's been educational, because what I thought I knew and what I thought as you know me. You know, I've been around Black athletes and their families for a long time. And I don't look at you and I see any different than when I look at Christian Brown. I don't think I do. I don't think I do. And then you hear some of the things that happen and you say, oh my gosh, you know what? I hadn't thought it from that perspective and everything. So I think it'll make me be a better person, at least in that area, and a better coach moving forward, because I will be more understanding of certain things.
Well, that's awesome, Coach. And like, it's funny because I joke with my friends. I'm like, man, Coach Self, when all this stuff happened, I'm like, man, Coach Self, he's the blackest white coach I know.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying, no, just because I know where your heart is. And I know just from being, you know, from playing under you, how you treated the players, how you treated us equally with respect. And I just know, Coach, there's not one hate of blood in your body, and I appreciate what you are definitely doing for your young men.
Well, you know what? I wish I could actually believe that, because I got to get better, because I actually do think that when you don't see me as a white coach, I don't think you see me as a black coach. I think you saw me as your coach. I do believe that, and I do believe that the players think that I see them as my player, one of my own, as opposed to the color of the skin. I do believe that, but there's so many things that I have never taken into consideration. I never knew that you know, at least the mindset of stuff that you don't ever put your registration in your glove box. You always keep it above your visor. I've never thought of stuff like that. And we had a player here that I loved. You loved, everybody loved him around here, Jamari Traylor, that came from a tough background. Father was obviously got caught up in the 3 strikes and you're out, and prison for life and everything, and the punishment didn't obviously match the crime, but that is the law. That was the law. And then having Maury see it from his perspective and talking him through things, and respect for authority, all these things. It's amazing that how Jamari grew, and how he opened himself to understand better from other people's perspective, and how he grew. And therefore, it's amazing how many people Jamari educated while he was here. And we didn't talk about that publicly back then, even though that was just 5 or 6 years ago, like we are now. And I think that's good. I actually texted Jamari as soon as a lot of this stuff came out, and I said, hey, dude, I think I owe you an apology, because the way I handled a couple of situations, I looked at it as, okay, I don't know that this would go over great with our fan base. I don't know if this will help or hurt Jamari popularity-wise, when I should have been saying, hey, you need to be standing on your own 2 feet and getting out what you feel in your heart. And so there's just a lot of things like that. And you know what Jamari told me? He said, Coach, I knew where your heart was. You just didn't understand. and he was right. Yeah. And so, it's been very educational.
Yeah. Well, you know, the first step is trying to understand, Coach, and we definitely appreciate you for taking the front in that. But let's move on. We'll move on to some Kansas basketball now. Obviously, with Doak, you know, being gone, you know, how do you replace the minutes and production of Doak, especially on the defensive end?
I don't know that you can defensively. Now, we had our first scrimmage yesterday, Hawk, and granted, you know how first scrimmages are. Nobody guards anybody, breakdowns, nobody can carry out assignment, nobody plays hard enough. All these things, you know, David was 15 of 20 from the field, and 5 of 5 from the line. So, and our fans would say he's 5 of 5 from the free throw line. We haven't seen that in a long time from our center. But David can score the ball. David can score the ball. And granted, you're not going to go 15 to 20 often, but he was on a roll yesterday. But still, though, plugging the hole, defending the ball screen, being a presence that made people think twice about ever putting their nose in there. We don't have that yet. David has got to improve that in order for us to be have a chance to be what we did last year. But I personally think he can. I think he can. We're thin inside, obviously. With basically Mitch and Jethro being our other bigs in our program, but Mitch will have a good year. There's no question about that. But we're going to have to do it differently. But I don't know that you replace Udoka. I don't. I don't know if fans really appreciated how good he was until maybe you remove him and say, oh my gosh, those same shots that people are getting now, they weren't getting last year. Yeah. And that's a big credit to him.
Yeah, for sure. So, Coach, you know, who do you think this year is, you know, will probably make the biggest jump from last year to this year? What player do you think is gonna make that jump for you?
I thought David and Ochai were our 2 most improved.
Okay.
But I don't know that I mean, they're right there. But as we've gotten into practice, I think there's been some leveling off. You know, we're kind of on an uptick, and I think there's been kind of the level off like this. The guy that is doing it right now is Christian Braun. Yeah, and you know, as you know, he has no fear, and he can really make an open shot. It's amazing how important making an open shot is. But so I don't know. I think he's poised to hopefully become an all-league type performer. Yeah. I know Ochai's got it in him. I know David's got it in him. Marcus obviously has it in him. But Christian may be the one guy that you think he's really good and he's going to be a good player that may be better than what anybody ever thought.
Yeah. So what freshman are you most excited about?
Latrell hadn't practiced yet because he's hurt. Jethro is a little ways away, although he's a tremendous athlete. But Bryce Thompson's been good. I mean, he's been good, and he's advanced IQ wise and has great feel. And now, granted, he ain't perfect, and he's got a ton of stuff to learn. But as far as helping a team win, that's a little bit tougher than what you anticipate most freshmen being, and tries to guard and talks all the time and does some intangible things that this team will need because we're not great at some of those things. I think he's got a chance to impact us a lot early.
Yeah. So obviously, Coach, with that, the extra year of eligibility for winter athletes, I mean, you think that's pretty good? Do you think there's any seniors that might want to take advantage of that?
Yeah, well, Mitch could come back for his 12th season. I mean, we could do that. He and Brady's Morningstar would probably be the two oldest players ever at Kansas. But you know, Mitch could take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Marcus could, but Marcus, I hope, has a good enough year where he needs to go. If the timing's right, he needs to go. But if it doesn't work out, you know, he can always come back. That would be great. You know, so those are things that you know are distinct possibilities. So it kind of impacts recruiting. Like, what do you really need right now? Well, we won't need a point guard if Marcus comes back. But I can't bank on that. We got to recruit like he won't, and we really wouldn't need a backup big. So to speak, if Mitch comes back, but we don't know that. Yeah. And David may be good enough to go himself. So it's more of a crapshoot now than ever. And then you have the rule that should be passed. I'm not saying should be, will be passed. I don't like it, but it will be passed, where kids can transfer and be eligible immediately, regardless of situation. So, you know, is it more important to go out and recruit a sophomore that's been in the battle, or maybe recruit a freshman that hasn't? Yeah. And so who knows what the formula will be on that. So it's just a different time and such an inexact science. And we've had the NCAA stuff cloud over our head, and we don't know at all when that will conclude and how that could potentially affect us. We hope not at all. I mean, we're fighting and we know what we believe, but still that, you know, you don't know all those things. So it is an uncertain time to be recruiting right now.
Yeah. So kind of touching on recruiting, how has COVID impacted recruiting?
I don't think it's been bad. Evaluating has been harder because a lot of times, you know, you're going to use the summer months and the April months to do the majority of your evaluating to determine who you think is good enough and who can help you. But and you can't do it as good on tape, but we've watched more tape. Yeah. Majority of the kids that we have, like, we got a couple of commitments, and I can't comment about them specifically, but those were kids that have been on our radar a long time. So that hasn't really hurt with the evaluation. The thing that I think is bad is putting so much pressure on the kids and their families to make decisions before they're ready, because they think somebody else will take their spot at a place that they think they probably want to be at, but they don't know for sure because they've never seen it. Yep. And so kids are pulling the plug early or pushing the button early. So I think that is not positive. But as far as us, Zoom calls are good. I like doing Zoom calls. You know, spend an hour with the family, you get a lot done. I don't believe we ever did Zoom calls recruiting wise prior to COVID. But I do believe that regardless at the level that you're at, if everybody has a level playing field, I still think if you work at it, you'll still get about the same kid you always would. Little bit easier in metropolitan areas because they've already seen the schools because of short drives, whatever, on unofficial visits. A little bit harder in rural areas like us because kids can't come to campus. And they can't even fly here. Yeah. And so they're not going to see it before they make their decisions. So it's harder for us, but I still think we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
You always do, Coach. Hey, Coach, you got 20 seconds. One play to win the championship, down 2. Which players that you've coached in the past are you drawing that play up for?
Well, it's only happened once. So I'm putting the ball in Chalmers' hands every time. Hey, and you know Mario because you played with him. Man, I'll tell you a great story about Hawk here. And those pictures in the background, this guy doing the interview went 5 for 5 for 3 twice in his career. He did it at TCU, if I'm not mistaken. But he also did it in the Big 12 championship game when Mario was the MVP when he was a freshman. So we beat Texas with is that LaMarcus Aldridge and all those dudes?
Yeah, T.J. Tucker, all those, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we beat Texas 80-68. 80 I remember it.
That was fun.
And you went 5 for 5. And Julian Wright was killing in the middle of the zone. Yeah. And Chalmers Mario was the MVP, and of course B Rush was good. Sasha was great that game. I mean, it was a good deal. And of course you made 5 threes. That was fun. But the one thing that is amazing, and I don't think Devontae maybe, because Devontae he had a short memory. I mean, he didn't remember his misses. He only remembered his makes. Speed, if I had to take one guy to make a shot if he was open, I'd probably take Speed. I think Speed's the best shooter we've had here since I've been the coach on open looks. If just line it up and knock it down. But Mario Chalmers, there was something about that dude, and you know it and I know it. And he couldn't remember anything he ever did. I mean, he could make a 40% on a test and only remember, God dang, hey, I knew all those on page 2. I killed it.
That is Mario. Yeah.
I mean, but Hawk did one of the most unselfish things that I've ever had a player do, in that we struggled that year starting out. We were 10-6 their freshman year. We were 1-2 in the league. All these things, and Jeff was our starting point guard and was playing his ass off. He was playing great, but the team results weren't as good as what he was playing. And you know this.
Yeah.
You know this. You're playing well, but it wasn't showing up in wins and losses. And you came to me and you said, "Hey, Coach, it's time." I said, "What's it time for?" "It's time. You need to start Mario." I said, "He hadn't earned it." "Coach, it's time." And you did that, and then you went to be the 6th man, and you were still unbelievably effective. And that team won 12 of our last 13 to win the league. And so you made that call. I didn't make that call. So that was one of the great things. But you have to admit, of all the guys, Aaron Miles, stud. Wayne Simeon, stud. Keith Langford, stud. But the one guy that was just carefree enough that no matter what the situation was, you'd want him to take that shot because he wouldn't feel it. And that was Mario. He was great. Great.
Yeah, for sure. So
that was longer than 20 seconds.
Hey, so here's another one for you. So if last year's team, obviously getting cut due to the COVID, if last year's team had a chance to play either the 2008, the 2012 team, or the 2018 Final Four teams, who will win and why?
I think that last year's team could beat 18. Could. But the 18 could shoot it.
Yeah.
But last year's team wouldn't let them get those shots. I think last year's team could beat 12. To me, 18 and 12, they weren't near as talented as some of the teams that we had that obviously unfortunately didn't make it as far. But let's not get this twisted. Let's not get this twisted. The 08 team had 7 NBA players, and they played well together. And whenever you have 7 NBA players and the leading scorer averages 13, you probably got a pretty damn good team. Yes, so I would say I don't even think the 08 team gets the credit it deserves. Period, because that team that was a bunch of bad men right there.
Yeah.
And the way that people don't even know this. Our 2 best players were Jarrell Arthur and Sharon Collins from a talent standpoint, and that didn't include lottery pick Rush. That didn't include lottery pick Aldridge. That and everything. Of course, Mario had unbelievable gifts, but Sharon Collins was the hardest guy to guard we've ever had here. He's the hardest guy to guard. And Darrell Arthur, those two guys as sophomores, they were studs. But no team that 08 team could shoot it, could pass it, could easily have been the best defensive team that we've ever had. Last year's team would have rivaled it, but that may have been the second best defensive team. But the other thing they did, they liked to compete. I mean, they liked it when it got hard. I mean, I remember my first year here, and we're playing at K-State, and we're getting ready to run out to K-State, and some of the things that our guys were saying, I'm like going, God dang, do they not realize that we're on the road? And they, I mean, just acting around like they own the place. And Keith Langford being the leader on that. That 08 team did the same thing. I mean, a great story, and I'm rambling, but we're playing at Boston College, and they had Tyreek Rice. They had a good team, not a great team, Boston College, and we're up 25 at halftime. And they cut it to like 11 in the second half. And somebody did something, and they were feeling themselves a little bit, cut to 11, and somebody like marginal call collision, somebody just kind of threw the ball at Mario or one of the stuff, and Mario got in his face, and somebody else came and got in his face, and somebody else came and got in his face. I told my staff, I said, this game is over. Watch what's getting ready to happen. And we go on like a 14-0 run in 3 minutes because that team needed something like that to fire them up. Doc Sadler, when he's coaching in Nebraska, tells the story that year. We beat Nebraska pretty good. We play them in the first round of the Big 12 tournament. And Doc's in his pregame talking about, hey, if you guys need a pen or anything, I got a Sharpie here if you want to go get their autographs before the game starts and all this shit, okay, that he was doing. And so their guys came out and played their butts off, had us down 13 at halftime. I think it was 13. And you know how you have a little huddle, and then at halftime, then you go out and you kind of re-huddle again. And that re-huddle took place over there by Doc's bench. Yeah. And I think as Mario said, let's get this shit over with right now. I think that was the last quote. And Doc heard him, and Doc said, oh, Lord, we're in trouble. And by the first TV timeout, we were up like 4. But that was what that team could. That was what that team could do.
They were the closest one that could just turn it on and off. Like that.
You don't want your teams to tell the teams that, but they were a team that liked to compete, and then when it got a little nasty, that's when they really liked it the most.
Yeah. So Coach, I know I was the easiest player you ever coached. Who do you think is your most high maintenance player you ever coached at KU?
Well, I won't probably say the actual truth on that one, because there's probably been a few, but I will say somebody that would be surprisingly. I'll tell you one that I love coaching so much, but he was hard, was Tyshawn.
Okay.
I said this all the time. Tyshawn could make plays that he looks like he's never been coached. Because I'm like, what is he doing? And then he would turn around and make 3 plays that you can't coach.
Yeah.
I mean, because athletically, it's just heavy. Yeah. But he was so tough. He drove it in there. But we're playing Duke. I mean, it's a big game. We're playing Duke in the finals of Maui. I think he has 11 turnovers. And I'm like going, God, hey, Ty, if you only have 7 turnovers, we win by 4. It's one of those things. So I think that Ty was he wasn't frustrating, but he was kind of tough sometimes because he was just what made him good was that he was just wild.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I've had for the most part a lot of pretty coachable, fun guys to be around. You were kind of a pain in the butt early in your career, to be honest with you. But I actually don't, and you know this. Whenever we have a guy that there's any issues with, and we get through those issues, it's smooth sailing always right after that. It is. It is. And certainly we've all had situations where we go through stuff, but for the most part, it's been pretty smooth sailing here.
Yeah, that's awesome, Coach. Well, hey, Coach, I'll end it on this one, man. You got to speak on the Traeger deal, man. Like, I don't know, are you like a model for They use you for modeling purposes with Traeger, man. You got like a modeling deal with them, man. What's up with the Traeger grill, man?
Well, I did not ask for this, but Darren Williams, really close friend, one of his very best friends, is a marketing rep nationally for Traeger. And Jarence and Darren are teammates, and I still talk to Darren a little bit, and love him. And Jarence tells him that, you know, hey, Coach is kind of wanting to into this cooking. He's got a little Traeger grill, but he's cooking on a little bitty miniature Traeger deal. Next thing you know, I got a grill show up in my house, and it's a bad boy. And so, you know, I talked to Darren's buddy that hooked me up. And so he told me, hey, you don't have to do anything. Just use it and then tell people it's good. And I'll be honest with you, it's fantastic. And I'm sure there's others that's great. But I've gotten during this COVID stuff where I actually like to cook and trying to learn how to cook and everything. So it's been fun. But you know you made it whenever Traeger sends you a special shirt that you can wear while you're grilling. So I feel like that I've made it.
You made it, man.
I've made it. I've made it, Hawk. I've made it.
Well, hey, that's it for today, Jayhawk Nation. Thanks so much for listening in to Rock Chalk Jayhawk with Jayhawk. Make sure you rate, review, hit the subscribe button on iTunes or any other platform you have. Coach, thanks again, man. I love you so much, and you know, I'll always be rooting for you, and I'll always have your back, man.
I know you will, and you be sure and tell Addie we said hello.
I will.
Okay. All right, man.
You'll be listening, man.
See you.